Hi everyone, it's your favorite atomic blonde here. Ugh, apologies, there's not been any shows for quite some time. Um, I just my life's just suddenly gone a bit bonkers. I don't know why. The original plan was obviously last year I had my amazing trip. I wasn't planning on working the rest of the year, focusing on the channel, kind of coming up with some new stuff. And as it goes, I come back, got a new contract straight away, went back to work, broke up for Christmas. It's like right in the new year. And then, had a couple of weeks off over Christmas like everybody else. Then it was like my birthday. Then it was my friend's birthday. And now we're finally made it into February, thank goodness. I mean, January is like the longest month of the year, and then some. I don't know, I was looking really shiny. I don't know quite what's going on there, but anyway, just sort of playing around with my light a little bit then, quite so shiny. Okay. Is that better? That's a bit better. Yeah, and I seem to have something on every weekend in February. I mean, how? I mean, January and February are like the quiet months of the year generally. So everything's a bit bonkers right now. So busy with the new job, lots of birthdays in February. I mean, it's lovely to be popular and have friends and things to do in the real world. But that means I've had zero time for the channel. So I'm really sorry, guys. So what I'm going to try and do is I've got something on every weekend. I'm going to try and do a Sunday lunch. If I can't, I'll at least try and get an Atomic Pop chat out there, just to say hi, this is what's going on. So you don't all forget about me. And the other reason in January, I guess, is the lack of time, but also there just really wasn't a lot to watch. Well, for me personally in January, so not a great deal to talk about. But there's a couple of reviews I'm going to give today. I think the main focus is kind of more upcoming stuff, I guess, that I'm looking forward to. Time will tell whether they're any good or not, as always. But we'll come to that. So let's crack on. I mean, I hope you're all well. I hope you all had a fabulous Christmas and New Year's. It's like such a long time ago already. And I hope 2024 is treating you well. Obviously, we've got a long way to go. But I really hope everybody's had at least a good start to the 2024, the new year. So let's have a little look-see at what I have been watching, and look, multitasking gone completely out the window. Here we go. So let's crack on with some reviews. Oh, it's like you don't do this for a few weeks and you just kind of, your brain just goes, it's ridiculous. Especially at my age, it really shouldn't be that hard. But anyway, cool. So just sort of three things as ever, all kind of Asian based. But hey, that's where the good stuff is, right? So I think I mentioned before Christmas that Jeong-sung Creature was coming on. It's both parts have dropped now in December. I think it's like in November, December. It's set during the Japanese occupation of Korea, which is a particularly bleak time in Korean history. The Koreans were not treated very well by the Japanese at all. And having been there, there's still quite a lot of, things haven't been forgiven. There's still quite a lot of tension, shall we say, between Koreans and their view of the Japanese. And I will say this show does not shy away from this. If anything, it's obviously it's sort of based in that period in time, but this is a sort of supernatural based show. So there's a Jeong-sung is a town or a city that's obviously under Japanese occupation, and there's a hospital that's there, and girls are going missing, or people are going missing in the region, and we basically find out that the Japanese are experimenting on Korean people. They've discovered this kind of parasite, or micro parasite, like this little worm, And when they introduce it to people, some people, it just sends them mad and they end up deleting themselves. But there's a percentage where it actually mutates the human into some sort of into a creature that's highly violent. And they're basically trying to sort of create some sort of weapon or sort of super soldier. It was a great show. I really enjoyed this. It is set up for a season 2, which I believe is happening. For those who don't like subtitles, this is dubbed, so you'll be pleased to know that. But I would say go check this out. As always, the production values are brilliant, like the period piece or the costumes, the recreation of the town. As always, the story is absolutely just sucks you in. So you've got lots of like personal drama. So you've got these 2 lead characters who are basically looking for their mother. We find out very early on that her mother has been taken and is basically being experimented on. The sort of the hero of the piece, initially he runs a pawn shop in a town, and he's sort of well respected and he has money, and you learn about his backstory and how his mother was taken and basically tortured to death by the Japanese when he was a young boy. But he's very much perceived to sort of stay out of there's like a resistance movement building, and he sort of tries to stay out of all the politics, and he sort of helps people. And what you learn over time is he kind of helps people in his own way through the pawn shop, but he very much sort of tries to stay out of the politics. But with everything that happens, and then the father and daughter team looking for their mother, he kind of gets pulled into this and finding the girls, and he kind of, you know, very quickly sort of becomes the hero of the piece. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I loved it. I'm very excited for season 2. Don't know when that's going to happen yet, but I strongly suggest you check this out if you like a little bit of supernatural, a little bit of period piece. Very well done, as always. My Demon, I was talking about before Christmas. Yeah, it started, like I say, it's very much in the rom-com trope. As I said before, Korean stories tend to fall in sort of modest 3 characters. This is very much their romantic ones. Yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was light-hearted. You kind of, like I say, they have certain tropes in the storylines. They're still very enjoyable, but you kind of know how it starts. You know, so it's very classic one where he's a demon and he finds this girl. He's basically the devil in it. And he makes like Faustian deals with people, and after 10 years he'll come and get your soul. But he can kind of seek out people who are desperate, and then he'll go and make them an offer, and he comes across this girl. And then we basically find out that at one point he was human, sort of Johnson dynasty kind of thing. He was a wealthy nobleman, and the girl in question he fell in love with, but she was like a geisha kind of Korean version of that, like a concubine, I think, or something they call it, because she's the lowest standing, and that's kind of the best job that she could do. She's like a dancer. So Korean society, because it's very hierarchical, they could never be together. They find Christianity, where Christianity teaches that everybody's equal, so they kind of feel that they could, that if they follow this, they could actually be together and get married. Obviously, hundreds of years they were trying to stamp this out, and she was basically murdered, and that's when he then kills himself and vows, denounces God and vows and becomes a demon. So she's there basically. So again, it's that very much reincarnation. He doesn't remember being human, but over time. So he has like a tattoo on his wrist, and he finds her. She's being stalked by a serial killer, and he goes to kill her. Hence why he can pick up on her desperation. They end up falling into the water together, and the tattoo transfers to her. So he loses his powers. He can only tap into his powers if he's holding her wrist or touching this tattoo, and it all sort of falls out. Like, how does he get his powers back? And he starts, the longer he doesn't know his powers, he starts getting his human memories back, and he kind of realizes that she's a reincarnation, and blah, blah, blah. So it was good, but it falls very much into. So I mean, if you liked Business Proposal, Destined with You, Crash Landing on You, certainly Destined with You, where there's you have the flashback episodes, the period episodes, and there's a bit of supernatural in there, and yeah. So I mean, I really enjoyed it, but it's very light-hearted, very very much within that genre. So you kind of know what's going to happen before it happens, but still very enjoyable, light-hearted, good bit of switch brain off TV. And the last one I only watched recently, The Brother's Son on Netflix, with a wonderful Michelle Yeoh. Now I must admit, I was put off a little bit watching this. I hadn't really read anything about it. And as I say, Michelle Yeoh is wonderful. I love her. But the reason I didn't really gravitate to this is that, some of the TV shows she's been in recently, questionable choices, shall we say, like Star Trek Discovery, the show she did for Disney, is it American Born Chinese, I think it's called. Bit iffy, or a lot iffy. So I think she's a great actress. She's an absolute legend, but her choice in TV roles has been questionable. So I was a bit like, oh, okay, I'll give it a go. I saw a couple of good reviews, and I'm so glad I did. Literally from the first episode, you're absolutely sucked in. So you kind of got the gang in Taipei, and you've got a sort of like mobster, like the kind of the equivalent of the head of the mobster and his son, and a group of assassins break in, try to kill the son. He basically takes them all out. He's like just been trained his whole life to kill, but he loves to bake. He's watching like Great British Bake Off, and that's like his thing. And he's like just trying to, the cleanup crew come, and his father, who's currently in hiding, comes out because he's like worried, and then he gets shot in the stomach. And when he's unconscious, he basically says his wife's name, who is Michelle Yeoh. So the son goes to America to find her and protect her at all costs. When he gets to America, he finds his mom and his younger brother, who's like at college, and he's training. She wants him to become a doctor. He's sort of, very smart, but an absolute wuss, right? So he's grown up in America since he's like 5 years old. He doesn't know how to fight. He doesn't know how to look after himself. He's got no streetwise, at all. And then his brother turns up, and basically the whole world is turned upside down. His younger brother has no idea that his mum is a mobster's wife, or they've got anything to do with gangs and this gang war. And then gradually, like, people come over to help the son protect the mother. And this whole story just unravels. And then she was desperately unhappy with her husband. She doesn't want her youngest son to be any part of this. She wants to try and protect him. She wants him to have a normal life. The son that comes over, he kind of almost sees a bit of the longer he's there, he almost sees a bit of a way out. And there's just all these politics, but there's some great fight scenes, some really funny comedy at times. Like they go to see a connection who's throwing a birthday party for his daughter, who's a young girl, and basically the assassins turn up at the kids' party before it starts, but in the pretense of being because the daughter's into dinosaurs, so they've sort of dressed up in these T-Rex costumes, inflatable costumes, and they're having this fight while they're all in these costumes. It's just absolutely hilarious. I absolutely loved it. But it's very violent and graphic at points. They don't shy away from any of that. But the whole storyline and the storytelling was great. I think it's written by Asian writers. It's just fantastic, and it's completely teed up for a season 2. I don't know if we're going to get one. I know it's done pretty well on Netflix, but I really enjoyed this. It was literally, check it out, and I binged the whole lot in a Saturday. I really, really enjoyed it. It's good fun. It's good action, say a little bit of humor, but there's also, you know, underneath it all, this story about a family and a mother and the love for her sons, which was really, really cool. So highly recommend this. I hope season 2 is, if it goes ahead, is as good as season 1. As we know, with Netflix, you get a good season 1, season 2 can go off a cliff. But it was very, you know, but the female character casting was really good. It's very believable, like the fights and stuff. So definitely go check that out if you like your Asian action, you know, well, didn't really Asian, but if you just like into action, mob type stuff, you know, Narcos, all those kind of things, I think you'll really love this show. Cheers. Sorry, got to have a cup of tea. Okay. So moving on to upcoming. So there's quite a few things coming out this month and next month. Yeah, at the moment, I mean, mainly we've got trailers and rumors, apart from Ted, which is obviously already launched in the States. That started on the 11th of January. We are getting it, I think, 9th of February here next week. So next Friday, or this upcoming Friday, we will get Ted. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of intrigued. I love the first Ted film. I thought it was great. The second one, a little bit, you know. But anybody who's followed this channel since I started it really knows I'm a massive Orville fan. I think that is brilliant. It's very well written. Obviously, Seth MacFarlane, who is heavily involved in the series, as well as writing the films. I've seen the trailer. It looks good. I've seen some good comments saying it's very funny. So yeah, I'm kind of intrigued to see, is it more the first film, or is it the second film? Or maybe he's making up for the fact that he knew the second film wasn't as good. I don't know. But it's basically sort of a bit of a prequel. It takes it back. So you got this kid here, so I don't know the actor's name, but he's basically taken on the Mark Wahlberg role. So this is he's basically starting high school, and Ted's going with him for some reason. I don't know, but Ted's basically going to school with him, and it's all about so when so Ted's adventures in high school, basically, which does have the setup to be absolutely hilarious, I have to say. But it's just whether, you know, they're willing to go there these days. I mean, I think so sanitized and boring. But knowing the humor and how good the Orville is, I have fingers crossed that this will be good. We'll have to wait and see. So that's going to be the 9th of February on Sky, because we have Peacock through Sky here, or limited version of Peacock. So Sky or Now TV if you're here in the UK, and obviously it's on Peacock if you are in the States. Oh, so great trailer came out. Avatar: The Last Airbender. So this is a massive cartoon, or animation, I should say. I think in the 90s, might be the 90s. That was very well received. Done amazing things. They tried to make a film of it, which was just a catastrophe. And obviously this is an Asian story. And as you know, I will say it, you know, no, I don't think any Asians were cast in the film. I remember the film coming out. I didn't go see it. It flopped really, really badly. I think it just didn't capture the heart and the characters that people loved in the animation. But Netflix are giving it another go, and looking at the casting, it looks amazing. I mean, you look at the animated characters and you look at the actors they've got to play them. It looks really, really solid, and the trailer looks amazing. As I put in my tweet, or my X, whatever we call them these days, trailer looks amazing. I'm excited for this, but the trailer for Rebel Moon looked great as well, and look what happened there. So yeah, I'm sort of very apprehensive about whether this will be good or not. Netflix is always 50-50, as we know. You can get an amazing adaptation like One Piece, or you can get Cowboy Bebop. So who knows? But production looks great, casting looks great. I think if they stick to the source of the animation, we should get a really, really good show. There's been some backlash already. Surprise, surprise. So, you know, it's all about the oppression Olympics these days. So even though Asians have been cast, they're not quite the right color of Asian, and they're not quite dark enough, and they don't look like this. Being incredibly stereotypical. There's a tribe that's kind of based on Inuit culture, and they're basically saying the people, even though they are Inuit, aren't Inuit enough or aren't dark enough, even though that's a very racist, stereotypical view of Inuits. You know, they do, depending on where they're from, their color tone does change, like everybody else. So people are trying to. So even though they've tried to, I mean, and the people they pick, like I say, do look like their animation characters, very much like One Piece. So they've cast it appropriately as per the characters, as per the you know, either that the you know, Inuit people, but it's still not quite good enough because they've got to find fault somehow. You know, somehow it's got to be racist in some way because, you know, I'm just, it's exhausting. But putting that aside, I am going to give it a go. This is out. I'm just checking my notes. I think it's the, oh, did I write it down? 22nd of February. So a few weeks to go on this, but very much looking forward to it. Say, if it's half as good as the trailer looks, I think we're in for a really good ride. So again, fingers crossed on that one. Next is Constellation. This is going to be an Apple production. That's actually this one here with Noomi Rapace, who you might know from Prometheus. She played the lead in Prometheus. I think she's a French actress. What Happened to Monday? That is a great film on Netflix. It's a sort of sci-fi film. Go check that one out. I might do a review on that for you. Yeah, so not a lot's been, a trailer's been released by Apple. Not a lot is known about it. The premise seems to be, and I'm just going to read. So she's an astronaut. She's working on like a space station. Something happens while she's on the space station, and when she comes back, things aren't quite right for her. So the synopsis says Jo returns to Earth after disaster in space and discovers that there are missing pieces in her life. She also sets out to expose the truth about the hidden secrets of space travel and recover what she has lost. So based on the trailer and what I've seen, it kind of looks a bit like parallel dimensions, maybe, or something like that. That this accident that happens in space when she's returned to Earth, it's almost the same, but things are slightly different. Like she kind of feels her daughter isn't her daughter, and I can't remember, like she can't play the piano, but now she can play the piano. But there's just things that are just slightly off about the world that she's in now she's returned. So it could be very cliche tropes. You know, we've got an awful lot of multiverse, parallel universe stuff at the moment. Or, you know, it could actually be, you know, looks like one thing turns out to be another. But obviously she's a great actress. I do like her stuff. And as you know, I'm generally quite a fan of a lot of the Apple stuff, certainly in production values, all of that comes out. But it did look quite intriguing. I'm quite interested to see, say, how this plays out. That is due to be out, she says, looking at her notes, 21st of February. So see, we've got quite a bit. So we've got something on the 9th, 21st, 22nd. So a few things in February to look forward to. And then lastly, this one here, because it doesn't really give a lot away, is the three-body problem. Now, the three-body problem is based on a series of books by a Chinese author. Let me just, because I'll probably still butcher his name, so apologies. Let me just pull this up. I've read The Three-Body Problem. I'm currently on the second book, which I didn't get around to. It's a trilogy of books. You've got The Three-Body Problem, The Dark Forest, and Dead End, I think it's called. By Lu Xian, I think it's pronounced Cixin. It's a great book. I really enjoyed it. It's quite heavy sci-fi, it's old traditional heavy sci-fi, I would say. I'm just trying to find the year that he also wrote The Wandering Earth. So if you're a fan of The Wandering Earth, which is a great film, another Chinese film, suggest you check that out as well. So it wasn't translated into English until 2012. So it was originally published in 2008 in China. This is the first book. The series is called Remembrance of Earth's Past. And so the first book is called The Three-Body Problem. Now, I can't really explain what the three-body problem is without giving away quite a few spoilers. But that's why I kind of love this sort of stuff, that it's just intriguing in itself, and you have to go, obviously get through the story to understand, well, what is the three-body problem? So this was written in 2008. It was translated into English in 2012. A Chinese-American science fiction author, Ken Liu, and translator Joel Martinson were commissioned by the China Educational Publications Import and Export Corporation to produce an English translation. So the English translation is in a slightly different order to the Chinese version. So the book itself, it's about extraterrestrial contact. That's all I can really sort of say about it. And this starts during the sort of Cultural Revolution in China. So there's elements, one of the characters is talking about how they made contact and what happened. And in our version of the book, it's at the front because it kind of does make sense for it to the way the story plays out. However, in the Chinese version, it was kind of put in the middle of the book. And this was to do with like Chinese censorship. So they were less likely to read all the way through and find something that they didn't like, or kind of in the context of the story. So for whatever reason, but it got through kind of censorship and things like that. So it's a great book. So what we open up with, we find out that scientists are deleting themselves and leaving sort of cryptic notes to sort of say there is no science, and that like their whole world is falling apart. And one of the lead characters is taking like photos, and in these photos he realizes there's like this countdown clock, and then at some point he can start seeing the countdown clock literally like just through his eyes, right? It's like literally seeing it everywhere. And these scientists have been seeing this countdown clock. We don't know what the countdown clock, how are they seeing it, why are they seeing it, and what happens at the end of the countdown, we don't know. And then it kind of plays out that various people get recruited by the government, and there's a task force that's been pulled together to examine and look at this countdown, why the scientists killing themselves. And it transpires that, say, there was contact made with a race X amount of years ago. I can't say any more than that because it just gives way too much away. The book, it's if you're into your hard sci-fi, this is a great book. Now, the big caveat to this, or the flashing light, it's the showrunners for this are Dan and Dave from Game of Thrones. Now, as you know, I've not watched Game of Thrones, but I am a big House of the Dragon fan. And for various reasons, I never got into Game of Thrones at the time. And then at the time when I was going to start getting into it, everyone like, the show's gone off a cliff, don't watch it. And we all know what happened with season 8. Now, the first 5 series, as I understand it, are absolute bangers. because Dan and Dave were adapting the books, and after season 5, we're still waiting for R.R. Martin to finish his book, right? Was it 12 years now? And that's when they had to write their own stuff. It was bad. So there's 3 books, all written, all finished. Now, what that does suggest to me is that they're very good at adaptations, potentially. So I'm like, if they take the source material, adapt the source material, we could get an absolutely banging set of seasons for this. Now there's 3 books, so maybe 7 seasons could I guess. They're quite long books, so don't know, maybe 5 seasons. It depends how much they take in. Now obviously this is set in China in the book, so it's predominantly an Asian cast. As I say, the governments of the world get together because this isn't just a Chinese problem. So there are Western characters in it as well, but it's predominantly Chinese. I've seen some of the casting. They seem to have much more of a multicultural cast. And you've got the actor that plays Wong in Doctor Strange and Train to Busan, who's obviously Korean, not Chinese, and I'm not sure which character he's playing. So I don't know whether there'll be any comments around that. We'll see. I mean, if it's all well acted and it makes sense that these people are kind of playing these roles, I'm okay with that. It's probably quite hard to get Chinese actors sort of allowed to leave China to make these things, I guess. So, and there is actually a Chinese made adaptation series of this. You can get it on for free on YouTube. And I have watched some of that. There's a lot of episodes in the Chinese one. It's quite hard going. So I think they've got quite a lot to live up to. That Chinese version, from what I've seen so far, is very good and literally pretty much, beat for beat the book. So it'd be interesting to see how they adapt it, whether it's beat for beat, whether because if they're going to have more Western characters in it, they might have to change the source material a bit to understand why, if they're race swapping characters or not. I don't know. But and there's quite a lot of female characters in this, which is very interesting to explore through the sort of cultural revolution. And it's quite interesting, the timing of releasing or making something like this in the current climate, where obviously it's a communist country. You will hear things like struggle sessions, and what struggle sessions were. It's about going on a Zoom call. It basically means you get stoned to death. So all these things that in the West we think are great, and we should be doing this and we should be doing that. It's quite a strong commentary on the Cultural Revolution, and the pitfalls of communism as well. It's not overtly anti-communist because the author isn't, from what I know. He's very much pro the communism and the one child policy and various bits and pieces, but I don't think he can particularly openly speak out, even if he wanted to. But it's quite interesting the way it's spoken about, and they say they don't shy away from the brutality of the Cultural Revolution. So it'd be interesting to see how that gets depicted and really how people respond to it, because there's going to be words and things like, say, struggle sessions. You'll find out what that actually means. And it's not a good thing. So I'm really excited for this. I'm hoping, like I say, they just purely do an adaptation. They don't try and be clever, or because they clearly haven't got the intellect to do that. We saw that with Game of Thrones. If they just make the books, it could be an absolute banger, and I'm really excited. I think there's a couple of teaser trailers out there. We've not seen a lot, but again, 50-50 with Netflix, and probably 50-50 with Dan and Dave as well. But if they just stick to adapting, I'm really excited. So I have to wait and see. This isn't coming out till March. This is Have we got a date in March? No, it's just March at the moment. We don't have a date. But yeah, I'm gonna watch this space. As we get more trailers come out, I'll probably review those trailers, talk a bit more about this. But this is like right up my street. This kind of hardline sci-fi. So the book's fantastic. I highly recommend it. It's also on Audible, so if you don't really have time to read, or you're on a commute and you just want to listen to something, it works really well on Audible. Very enjoyable. Do go check that out. Cool. So some good stuff coming up. I'm actually quite excited by stuff that's coming up. It's not often that happens. But saying that, it's just so bad that you get excited for things, but you've got so much reservation that actually is it going to be any good? Because a lot of what we see isn't, and they take some great material and flush it down the toilet, as we all know. So, I mean, obviously, I haven't done a slide or anything. I think I have done a slide, actually. I tell a lie. Let's go on to my favourite topic, shall we, peeps? And shout out to Film Threat. This is their artwork. This is for the D files. Do go check out Film Threat. It's a great channel. Chris Gore, Alan Ing. Basically, they obviously do reviews of all different films, TV shows, a lot of independent films. It's a really good source if you don't like the Hollywood blockbustery type stuff. They will review anything and everything in a very unbiased way. Absolutely cracking channel. I love it. I've been recently doing the D files. No, kind about why is Disney in the mess that it's in? What has caused the decline of Disney? I mean, even though we know to a degree, they're really getting into some details. I think we've had parts 1 and 2. Again, they don't do it as part of their show, but then they do a clip. So if you just specifically want to watch the D files information, you can go get that on their channel. They also have a website. But it's absolutely cracking. So they're doing this at the moment, and they're also doing a lot of stuff around DEI and the WGA and people having to tick boxes and specify their sexuality, their color, their heritage, their inside leg measurement, basically, if you're a certain demographic, you've got Bob Hope of getting a job in Hollywood right now. Really interesting stuff. But yeah, just like every week, I think in the lead up to Christmas, there's a story about Disney. I get to the point I was getting a bit like, oh God, it's Disney. But having had a bit of break, got to come back and kick them while they're down, I guess. I mean, we had the absolute atrocity that was Echo. I mean, I didn't even bother watching it. I mean, I saw the reviews. Like, nah, I'm not seeing Kingpin be destroyed in that way. Absolutely amazing character. Daredevil, the Netflix versions of Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Daredevil, Punisher are probably some of the best Marvel TV you will ever watch. Ever. Absolutely brilliant. So and leading on from the catastrophe that Echo is quite interesting. Obviously, they decided to resurrect the Daredevil that Netflix so successfully made, and it's the only thing made that Kevin Feige had nothing to do with it, and it's absolutely brilliant. So they brought back Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, who plays Kingpin. They originally weren't going to bring back the sidekicks, and I think they filmed about 8 episodes of Daredevil Born Again. All the feedback, everything that's imploding. I think the writers got sacked, the director got sacked. They're rewriting it. They're going to reshoot it. They're now bringing back the sidekicks. Is it Foggy and is it Karen? I think it's Karen. Who I found immensely annoying. She was probably the only weak link in it. She was quite irritating, but overall the dynamic worked. So now these characters are coming back. They're bringing back like the fight coordinators, but for some mind-blowing reason, they're still not bringing back the original writers. So it's like, yes, it's great if you bring back the original cast, you bring back the things that people like, but if the writing's still shit, it doesn't matter. But anyway, they seem to be trying to make some, I don't know if it's just take these token changes to try and appease or get some interest from the fans. But they really need to pull something out the bag, because right now I've got zero interest in watching the new Daredevil based on, you know, just the writing that we've seen so far. I mean, Hawkeye, it's where they first trashed Kingpin's character. Again, I think got halfway through the first episode and I was so bored I couldn't watch the rest. Didn't watch Echo, absolute nonsense. 50-50 whether we're going to get Agatha Harkness and whatever it's called this week. It's like, who knows? And then we've got Lemon Ironheart. That's, yeah, I think again they just need to drop it, get it out there, because that is going to bomb. On top of that, we had the investors calls. Obviously, Netflix absolutely smashing it. Chromecast smashing it for their shareholders, returns, dividends, got a plan, ambitious targets that they're hitting. And then we get to Disney. It's, I think, close to $11 billion on Disney Plus since its start in 2019. They've lost hundreds of $1 million on their last 5 Marvel releases alone, or Marvel and Lucasfilm releases. You know, I mean, to be fair, the writing's been on the wall for such a long time, and as I've been over this. So, but it's how Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, and Kevin Feige have still got jobs is mind blowing. Any other company in the world, you would have been fired by now. Like, poor performance. I mean, fired, managed out, whatever the rules are in your country, chopping block. But somehow these three are still there running it into the ground. It's quite unbelievable. In terms of was it Feige the other day was talking about, I think it was the X-Men and making it female centric and this, that, and you're like, oh my god, you have learned nothing. And again, it's like, great if it's written well or the female character's great, but the fact that's the first words that come out of your mouth, you know it's not going to be good, because you're not focusing on the story, you're not focusing on the characterization. The only thing that is going to make them money is Deadpool 3. And everybody's on the fence, you know, have they got the balls to make it R-rated? Probably not. It's going to be a PG-13. What they might do is do a theatrical PG-13 and then a 4K or DVD release R version. I don't know, but they should just go all out, make it an R version. They tone it down, they tame it down, and just lean too much into, like, you know, childish humor. It isn't going to be Deadpool, and fans are going to show up because, you know, Hugh Jackman Wolverine. Come on, apparently it's wall-to-wall cameos. It's meant to be, you know, some of the cameos meant to be amazing, but it has to be good, you know. And Deadpool 2 was good, but it was not a patch on the first Deadpool. And he kind of thinking, was it just, you know, if Disney just make them tone it down, there's no point. They need to, like, resurrect, like, the Touchstone Pictures arm that Disney used to have in the 80s. You know, there was some great stuff that came out, like the comedies that came out, like Ruthless People and Down Out in Beverly Hills. You know, it was a more adult arm of Disney, and there were some cracking films that came out through Touchstone. They need to do something like that, or put it through Fox Studios or something. I mean, this is Fox Studios, because obviously X-Men and Deadpool were originally through Fox. And unfortunately, Marvel got their Disney got sticky hands on it when they bought Fox. So time will tell. I mean, I think it'll be good, or it'll be watchable, it'll be fun, probably. But will it be Deadpool? Unlikely. We've seen the fiasco around the Blade movie. I mean, geez. And again, it needs to be R, or just 15 as it is in the UK. Otherwise, there's no point. There's absolutely no point. But you keep going, Disney. You keep running that company into the ground. It's only a matter of time. before they start selling off Lucasfilm, before they start selling off Marvel Studios, and they probably have to strip right back. So all they have is Disney and maybe Pixar. I could see them even offloading Pixar at this rate. They are in big trouble, and they brought it on themselves. So what else can you say? Obviously the fiasco around the whole Rey movie, and then Grogu and Mandalorian movie. I mean, come on, Lucasfilm. It's just desperation right now, absolute desperation. And it's just one bad decision after the other. It's just throwing good money after bad. It's just like they go, oh yeah, we hear what you're saying, so we're going to do something different, and then do exactly the same thing again. I mean, I really feel sorry for Daisy Ridley. She comes across as a lovely girl, really nice and grounded. She took it like really to heart that the sequel trilogy destroyed the Star Wars legacy. She feels like she's kind of responsible for that, and the poor girl isn't. She can only act what's on the page, right? It's 100% Lucasfilm and the directors and the writers' fault, right? Say all the cast, it's not the cast's fault. I mean, you choose not to be in it, but hey, you're an up and coming young actress who's offered at the time, which looked like was going to be the biggest trilogy ever. Why wouldn't you want to be in that? But again, Lucasfilm managed to completely balls that up. Well done, Kathleen Kennedy. Now the brand's just a joke, absolute joke. I mean, Ahsoka was terrible. All we've got to look forward to is the Acolyte, which is just going to be on fire from day one. And this skeleton crew, Jude Law, that we've seen absolutely nothing from, not even a photo, nothing hasn't even been made. Who knows? Yeah, umming and ahhing about Andor season 2 that nobody watched. I mean, apparently, I got about 6 episodes in, I think, maybe slightly less. And production-wise, it looked great. It even felt like Star Wars, but it was just so boring. It was so slow. I just couldn't stick with it. I keep toying with going back to it now. All the episodes have dropped, and like you kind of watch something, you binge something. Sometimes it's easier to watch if it's a bit of a slow burn than sort of kind of waiting week on week. So I might give it another go, but there's better stuff coming out. Hopefully, I don't have to resort to that. So yeah, Disney and Lucasfilm, Marvel just continue to burn. It's just flop after flop after flop right now, because there's just too much ego. There's too much. Nobody is prepared to say, "Hey, we got it wrong. We forgot about our customers. We forgot to make things that people like." Or not 1% of the population, or 1% of Twitter like. Give them one series a year and just make good stuff for the rest of us. I don't know, but it's gonna be very interesting to see how this plays out. I cannot believe that those 3 will still have a job at the end of this year. If they do, I'm a bit like, kudos to you. I mean, wouldn't we all like to be able to like fail that badly in our jobs and still have jobs and being paid $20-30 million a year plus bonuses or something? I don't know. Seems like a pretty good deal to me. Can I just sit there, balls up, and you pay me a shit ton of money? Thanks. Good gig if you can get it, I suppose. But hey. So anyway, that's it. Some hopefully great shows coming up, fingers crossed. I say 2 Netflix, so 50-50. One's Apple, so a bit more optimism, and hopefully Seth MacFarlane knocks it out the park for Ted. But anyway, this is good to have some things to look forward to. Time will tell whether they're worth watching, but I will be here telling you what I think, giving you the reviews on those shows, and apologising if they're not so good. But hey, you got to give things a go, right? We've got to stay open-minded. We've got to find things that are good. And when they are good, we need to support them. So, yeah. Oh, talking of things that were good, Obviously finished Reacher season 2. Really enjoyed it. I think like everybody, not quite as good as season 1, but really, really watchable. I'm looking forward to season 3. That's already been announced. And season 3 goes back to more the formula of season 1, which is like Reacher on his own and, you know, in small towns, saving the world, doing his like 18-bit. So very excited for that. I don't know if we're going to get it this year. Hopefully, we've got the Terminal List season 2, which is kind of like a prequel. Because obviously, spoiler, if you've not watched Terminal List, spoiler, he's dying. He's got a brain tumor. So I'm not too far how far forward you can go, but there are 5 novels apparently. So there's definitely the material there. So again, it'd be interesting to look more into the story of his special forces days and how he ended up with this tumor, which is something to do with the army, the Marines that he was in. So yeah, that should be good. Oh, and I finished, or For All Mankind season 4 is finished. Loved it. That show never disappoints. Again, there's moments in it where they just get you completely off guard. They've got no qualms about killing off characters. And it was one of those ones where I sat there and went, oh! No, I couldn't believe what they did. It's such a clever show. It's such a well-written show. Ronald D. Moore was one of the creators. Anybody who's a nerd and sci-fi, you know, guy, Battlestar Galactica, wrote on Star Trek, the later shows, like DS9, I think he was very much on. And I think he done Next Generation as well, but great writer anyway. I thought we're up to like the noughties. It's an alternative history. So the premise in season 1 is that the Russians got to the moon before America did. And what did that do to the space program? And it basically caused America to put more money into it, because then, like, you know, it's like, who's going to have the first space station? Who's going to get to Mars first? And the politics is slightly different. So some things are the same, some things are different, like different presidents. And the Cold War didn't end in 1989 in this version. It's still there. We've got better relationships, mainly because of like Mars and things. And there's like a joint colony. You've got North Korea, the American, or NASA, and the Russians all on this colony on Mars called Happy Valley. So there are sort of ties and they do talk to each other, but it's still very much like a very Cold War kind of setup. And it sort of leans very heavily into this in season 4, and how the politics is kind of, so they've kind of gone through, Gorbachev was still premier and things have softened. And they say there are relations between Russia and the West, but it's not the full collapse of the sort of Soviet Union that we saw. And there's a bit of a coup, and more hardline communists try to sort of overthrow Gorbachev, and they want to go back to like, you know, much harder and less capitalism Russia. And so all these politics are playing out in Russia. Then so obviously that has repercussions then on what happens in Happy Valley in terms of you know, relationships are breaking down and now they're not allowed to talk to each other. And you've got to say a part of the base, which is North Korea, that doesn't really talk to anybody else. So it's I love that kind of, as much as we're moving forward as a civilization and pushing out into space and our technologies, the same old politics, the same old rivalries keep happening. You know, like whatever's going on Earth affects what happens on Mars, even though the people on Mars are all working together side by side. One day you're having lunch with someone and the next day you're not even allowed to acknowledge that they exist, or you're not allowed to talk to each other because of what's happening hundreds of thousands of miles away on Earth. And there's a little bit of some of the storyline is that Mars is our home and we're not going to put up with this anymore. And it's like a bit of a civil war happening on Mars. You've got this stuff happening on Earth. It's such a clever show. I absolutely love it. And what I love is it evolves, and each season is not the same as the season before. They've got real character story arcs. You've got the slight differences in the world and how things could or may play out. And again, in current climate that we seem to be going backwards, and going to end up in another Cold War situation potentially, or worse. You know, it's quite weird as someone who grew up in the 80s. That we got so far forward with the world and peace, and diversity was happening organically. You know, there was less racism in the world. All these kind of things, and now we just seem to have just deteriorated back to the 80s, that we're potentially sitting here going, how far are we off DEFCON 1? We've got North Korea threatening war with South Korea in the West. Obviously, you've got Russia imploding with the Ukraine. You've got what's going on in the Middle East. And you watch TV and it's literally like being 1984 or something again. And, kind of live through that once. Don't really want to live through it. Well, I want to live through it, but don't really want to have to go through that again. It's quite, the world's a very strange place right now. And that's why entertainment and TV and films are so important. I mean, you look back at how bad the world was late 70s, 80s. I think that's why our entertainment was so good, because we all needed that escapism. We needed fun. We needed to go to pictures and watch something that wasn't our world, where there was hope and the good guy wins, and, all those kind of things. And that we just don't have in our entertainment anymore. Everything's about the modern audience and reality and showing how bad the world is right now. Well, jog the F on. Seriously, give us some entertainment, give us some fun, give us things to think about that take us away from the bonkers world that we're in right now. So anyway, I've waffled on. I've completely digressed. I was about to go, but anyway. So as always, please do like, share, and subscribe. It's really important. I love getting your comments. Let me know, are you excited for the shows that I've mentioned? Are there shows coming up that I've missed that you think I should check out? I'd love to know your thoughts. As I said, it's going to be a bit of hit and miss over the next month, but I will definitely try and get some Sunday lunch in. If not, I'll do some shorter Atomic Pop chats. But definitely we'll try and review, obviously, the shows I've recommended or I'm looking forward to. Don't know if they're good yet. And we can either commiserate or celebrate together. So you have a great week. Do take care of yourselves. And I'll be back when I'm back. Hopefully next Sunday. But we'll see. But you will take care and have a great week. Bye-bye.